And in my second lecture, Maldives is a country which has 100% Muslim citizens. I was a guest of the government. I was called by the Ministry of Islamic Affairs. And one questioner, he said that he was born in a Muslim family, his parents were practicing Muslims, but he does not believe in any religion. He is not a Muslim. And then he asked me, what is the ruling for a person like me in Islam? Now I knew this was a mischievous question. And he expected me to say death penalty. I didn't say that. I asked him a counter question. That what do you feel according to your knowledge? He said he had read books on Islam, etc. I asked him, what do you feel according to your knowledge is the penalty for a person like you? He said, death penalty. I told him he's wrong. Because Quran says in Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse number 256, La ikrah fid din, there is no compulsion in religion. Truth stands out clear from error. So this is not a blanket rule that death penalty should be given to a person who is a Muslim and changes his faith. And after that I gave the answer and I tried to convince him. He was seen speaking to some other audience and he provoked certain audience, and as I told you that 100% of the citizens of Maldives are Muslims, they started hitting him. And he ran for his life. At that time I stood up and said, I told the audience to calm down. And I again quoted the verse of the Quran, Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse 256, saying that La ikrah fid din, there is no compulsion in religion. And because of that, he was saved. So leave aside giving death penalty, I said we should not even beat him. So these are my views. So how could Sunday Times quote me? From where they get this? And they say that I said these statements in some YouTube clip. Now how can they rely on a YouTube clip which can be easily manipulated? And I doubt, I challenge them to show any such statement of mine in Peace TV. What they do, they go to YouTube, and this YouTube, any Tom, Dick and Harry, any person who may not like me, they may manipulate my speech, cut, paste it and put it onto the YouTube. So that is no evidence that what they see on the YouTube is what I've actually said.
Okay. So another statement which actually created quite a havoc in the media was that every Muslim should be a terrorist. That's how it was interpreted by the media. So what do you have to say about that? How do you justify that?
This again is out of context.
Okay.
This is a statement when Muslims are maligned that Muslims are terrorists. I say that terrorist means a person who causes terror. And I give the example that if a robber sees a policeman, he is terrified. So for the robber, the policeman is a terrorist. In this context, every Muslim should be a terrorist. Whenever a robber sees a Muslim, he should be terrified. Whenever any antisocial element sees a Muslim, he should be terrified. Every Muslim should be a terrorist to the antisocial element. But I further go on to say that I'm aware that terrorist commonly means a person who terrorizes an innocent human being. In this context, no Muslim should ever terrorize any innocent human being. Now this Sunday Times picks up one statement of mine from an answer I've given out of context and says Zakir says every Muslim should be terrorist. I've clearly said that terrorist commonly means a person who terrorizes an innocent human being. In this context, no Muslim should terrorize a single innocent human being. And it's very easy. For example, if I'm taking an interview and if I ask you that is robber a good person? But naturally you say robber is not a good person. And if I chop off the knot, it will sound that robber is a good person. And if I show you your own interview, you would think it's a slip of the tongue. Actually you said robber is not a good person. But when I chop off the knot, it sounds like robber is a good person. And you would think it's a slip of the tongue. It's not. So doing these things is so easy. So this is exactly what they've done. They've picked up half my sentence and presenting to the world as though I'm saying that every Muslim should be a terrorist.
Okay.
So what happens that this is how the media tries to malign people who are popular and are trying to spread peace. And I'm aware that there are certain young Muslims in different parts of the world who are being misguided by certain elements. And they are being told that you should spread terrorism, it will be good for you, it's good for the religion. My speeches actually prevent such misguided people to go on the wrong path. In fact, I am very unequivocal that Quran says clearly in Surah Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verse number 32, that if anyone kills any other human being, whether it be Muslim or non-Muslim, unless it be for murder or for spreading corruption in the land, it is as though he has killed the whole of humanity. And if any person saves any other human being, it is as though he has saved the whole of humanity. So Quran is very much clear and unequivocal that killing any innocent human being is as though you have killed the whole of humanity. And I said this many times, that any Muslim killing any innocent human being, whether it be a Muslim or non-Muslim, it's totally unacceptable in Islam.
So another statement which came into limelight and created quite a few disturbances was the Sunday Times alleged that you support bin Laden and you blame George Bush for the 9/11 hijackings and call it an inside job. Sir, if you actually mentioned it, do you have any proof for such kind of a claim?
These two statements have been taken from two different video clips of mine. And very often I'm asked by the questioners after my talk and by journalists that what are your views regarding bin Laden? And I always say that if I have to give my judgment based on what I see in BBC and CNN, I'll have to agree that bin Laden is a terrorist. But the Quran says in Surah Hujurat, chapter number 49, verse number 6, that whenever you get a message, you check it up before you pass it to the third person. So based on this verse of the Quran, I cannot say anything, condemn anyone, unless I've got sufficient proof.
Okay.
So therefore I say, I don't know bin Laden personally. Neither do I consider him a terrorist, neither do I consider him a saint. I say, I don't know. And that's the same question. Suppose the UK government today, if they arrest bin Laden, and before he undergoes the trial, suppose they put him to trial in the High Court or the Supreme Court, and before the trial takes place, if the Home Secretary, Theresa May, she asks the judge of the High Court or the Supreme Court judge that what are your views regarding bin Laden? Do you consider him to be a terrorist? What do you think will his reply be? But naturally he'll say, I don't know. He will say, let the trial take place. You place the evidence. I'll verify the evidence. I'll cross-examine. Let the cross-examination take place. Then I'll give my verdict. Because he is a responsible person. He cannot just say, okay, fine, I have seen on BBC, I have seen on CNN. Why should there be a trial? Just put him to gallows. In a democratic country. So this is how a person who's responsible, who has a very high post, will behave. And this is exactly what I do. Because I know I've got more than 100 million people following me. I've got a large fanship. I cannot say anything. So when I say I don't know, if the Home Secretary is condemning me, so tomorrow if they arrest bin Laden, and before the trial takes place, if the Supreme Court judge says, I don't know, I think she'll even deport him, saying that why is he supporting bin Laden? He's not supporting bin Laden. This is how a logical person, because in democracy you have to give everyone a chance. So I'm not saying bin Laden is a terrorist, neither am I saying he's a saint. I say I don't know. At the same time, those people who have sufficient proof, and those people are convinced with the proof, if they say, fine, they can say. But why should I repeat? Why should anyone force some of their thought down my throat? So just because I say I don't know, that does not mean I'm supporting bin Laden.
Okay.
But in the same breath, I also say, whoever has done the 9/11, whoever the person is, that person is to be condemned. And that person is wrong. Whoever has done the 7/7 bombing in London, where more than 50 people were killed, he is to be condemned. Whoever has done the serial bomb blast in Bombay on 11th of July, where about 200 people were killed, those people should be condemned. I am condemning the act. I cannot take the name because I don't know who did it. Regarding the second part of the question, that I have said that 9/11 was an inside job done by George Bush himself. This is in reply to a question that was asked to me after one of my talks that took place in 2006. The topic of my talk was, is terrorism a Muslim monopoly? And after my talk, there's a questioner who poses a question that, do you consider 9/11 to be an inside job? And in reply I said that there was an article that came in Times of India on the 7th of September 2006. The title of that article was, 75 professors believe 9/11 was an inside job.